Yeah, go ahead, get yourself all fixed up there. I
Man,
feel like
please.
you're good anyways, but you know, you do what you gotta do. You gotta feel good. I'm
No.
Brittany Ward, the athletic director for the Police Athletic League, here today with Jimmy Lawson. So, hi, Jimmy, how are you?
Doing good, Brittany. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad and honored and privileged to interview you today. I'm really just here. I'm just like a fly on the wall. I want you to tell us your story, and I want everyone to know all these little things that make you so great. So let's talk about where you grew up and where you're from and what schools you went to.
Yeah, first and foremost, Brittany, I want to say thank you for your time and effort, man, for taking some time out to come into my little small nugget of a world, as I call it, man. I don't take it for granted. It's highly appreciative. Shout out to the PAL League, in which I started playing basketball at the PAL League when I was about 10. So I got a good
Really?
rich history. I did. My
I
dad.
didn't even know that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, my dad started the team when I was about 10. We started at the Northside YMCA and then jumped into the PAL League. And I was like, PAL League? Police Athletic League? Come on, man. What is this all about? So we walk in, man, with the gym. That's still there on 10th and Portland, right next to OSU OKC. And it changed my life. It gave me an opportunity to play against a lot of guys and kids from different parts of the city. Because up until then, we were just playing people from North Side, Oklahoma City. So when we got to the PAL League, we were playing people from South Side, East Side, West Side. So it gave us an opportunity to learn a little bit about diversity. And that's what it was all about for us, man. So, yeah, I'm from Oklahoma City, born and raised. I'm a North Sidean. We call the North Side is the best side.
Okay, North Sider.
Yeah, North Sider. Born and raised here, man. Went to John Marshall High School, proud alumni of John Marshall High School. After I left high school, I went to Grambling State University to play Division I basketball, which was really a blessing because at that time and era, there weren't a lot of kids back in the 90s. We're talking about early and mid 90s of coming out of Northside Oklahoma City, being able to not only be qualified educationally wise, but be good enough on the court to be able to get to that level. So that was a special time for Oklahoma City, really, because we had 5 or 6 off our high school team that all played Division I basketball, which was unheard of.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Unheard of. You maybe get one player now, maybe per one team, maybe, and maybe 3 or 4 in the whole city each year that goes Division I. But we have 5 or 6 off one team.
That's incredible, man.
But that's how much talent. That's how much talent we had on the north side of Oklahoma City, man. It was a special time and a special place to be. So played ball there for a few years and then transferred to Oklahoma City University, OCU, the original OCU here in the city. Yeah, because Oklahoma Christians try to call themselves OCU.
Yeah, I know. I actually went to a basketball camp there many years ago.
Yeah, no.
I did. I didn't know. I'm from Texas. I didn't know.
Yeah, the original OCU. And finished up there. So
well, before you get too far ahead, I wanted to ask really quickly about going to Grambling. So that's an HBCU.
It is. It's a historically black college and university. I had some major JUCOs after me, had some lower level Division I's. What kind of inspired me to go the HBCU route was the opportunity to be at a historically black college, potentially have some black professors, black administration, black coaches, just to dive into my culture, as an African-American male. I felt like it would be a cool deal to see what that looks like, what that feels like. And of course playing Division I ball. So it was the best of both worlds. D1 ball, the highest level, and then the historically black experience. What was really cool that year, Brittany, is that our schedule was amazing. So I played against like 5 NBA players that year. So it was Allen Iverson.
What? You played against AI?
Yes, Larry Hughes.
Put some respect on his name. I love him, man. I love AI.
Oh, AI is so cool, man. When we went to DC to play Georgetown, John Thompson, the coach John Thompson was super cool. Took us out to eat, took us downtown in DC. It was an experience because Oklahoma City looks so differently than Washington D.C. DC is so diverse. You got all walks of life: Hispanics, blacks,
Mhm.
Indians, Pakistanians, whites. Coming from Oklahoma City, I wasn't used to that. I,
Mm.
I didn't know what that was. So looking at all these walks of life as professionals and co-mingling and walking down the street and going to restaurants,
Powerful.
it was an experience. See, I wouldn't have got that experience if I didn't go to Grambling, right? Because we
Mm.
wouldn't have went to Georgetown. So
Mhm.
that was the blessing on the backside to me, is it gave me exposure to all these different cities across America that really said to me, wait a minute, this doesn't look like Oklahoma City.
I think that that's so important to note, though. Um, it happens to the best of us, right? Like we get sort of trapped in our little bubble, and sometimes it can be hard to see outside of that. It's hard to know that there's a whole nother way of living. One of my favorite Aussie, maybe it's not an Aussie slang, but they use it a lot over there. Where there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Like
Right.
there's more than one way to live a thriving, successful life. And I do believe exactly what you just said. Until you have those growth experiences, it's hard to realize that there is something beyond just your little radius in OKC.
Yeah. Yeah. So it gave me a different perspective. It allowed me to really figure out, what life looks like outside of Oklahoma. And then it also provided a opportunity to play at the highest level. So man, it was a win-win. It was a win-win. My daddy couldn't wait to kick my butt out. Boy, you need to grow up, go, bye. I'm like, man, wait till they kick me out, man. But it was cool, man. Everything. What was weird to me, Brittany, everything he was preaching to me and pounding about A, B, and C, about life and this son. The weird thing about that gap between 18 and 24, Brittany, is that a lot of kids, don't have the relatable experience to understand what the parents is trying to teach. I
Right.
was that kid, like, I hear you, pops, but
I
that
don't know
really
what
doesn't
you're
make
saying.
that
Yeah.
don't make sense to me. What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I
So until you
understand
get out that bubble and you start having life experience, then all that stuff that your parents talk about is like, okay, so
that.
that's what that means. That's
You
what that
were
means.
onto something. Okay, Pups. I hear you now.
Yeah, I think you on the right lane, man. I'm getting what you're saying now. So uh, that experience at Grambling provided me a foundation to really build upon and then inspire me to what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, so I was sorry I went back in your timeline. So you actually transferred to OCU, and then so what happened from there?
So finished up at OCU, got my undergrad degree in finance, and then went back to OCU a few years later to get my master's. So my master's degree is in business administration, MBA, if you will. Um, so I started my career in finance, started with the state of Oklahoma. First working for an agency called Water Resources Board in the finance division. That was cool. I had no experience coming out of college. I was the guy that walked into the office like, yo, I need $60,000. No experience. Right? So the dude's looking at me like, and I'm like that because I'm real open, so I don't really care. I'm real
Yeah.
confident. So I'm like, I need 60,000. What's starting salary? He's to give me this little low number. I'm like, wait a minute. He's
Oh,
like,
oh.
the way the ball games go, you have no experience, sir. So that was an eye opener to understand that you get paid for what you do and what you earn and how you experience yourself. So got in, worked hard, I figured out real quick, I don't want to be with the state of Oklahoma the rest of my career. So let me go back to grad school. That's what inspired me to go back to OCU to get my master's. And then once I finished my master's, I hit the private sector. So I worked for an oil and gas company. You probably heard of it. It kind of went away. It's called Kerr-McGee. Kerr-McGee was one of the largest oil and gas companies here in Oklahoma City. They split off in 2006. So back then, I started in their credit and treasury department and worked there for about 3 years before they got bought out. But I ended up going on the chemical side of the fence, which was called Tronox now. So was there for about 8 or 9 years. Worked my way up. Became one of the first African American managers in the company, which was cool. It's a global company. So the
What
demographics of the,
what
huh?
is that, and what does that, so for any young people watching this, like what was that like for you to, one, be the first, but two, to hold such a high position in the company? Like, that's cool.
Yeah, it was one of those things that I was real plugged into. I always go back to my foundation, which was my father. Rest in peace, my brother. Um, but what he was trying to build and show me is that, son, taking color of your skin has nothing to do with your ability to produce and educate yourself. I thought, oh, what does that mean?
Mm,
Right? He says,
that is a powerful nugget right there. Yeah.
yes. And he says, education is blind. I
Mm,
said, hmm.
mm.
So I get in, I believe it, I get my master's degree, and then he takes me to the next level. So I get in with Tronox, and then he says, son, here's the next nugget. If you're the smartest person in the room, you can never lose.
Uh-huh. Okay. So challenging you to always want to be better, like challenging you to always have a thirst for education, right? Like it never stops.
It never stops. And
Right.
what he was trying to promote is that we're going to strip out color. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, Hispanic. Color has nothing to do with it, son.
Right.
It's your ability to perform and educate. Because if you are the smartest person in the room, they will never see color. Doesn't matter. So I get in, I get the promotion. That was cool. Um, I never really thought about it, Brittany. Coming from North Side, there's not a lot of kids who make it out. Let me go back to demographics for John Marshall. So John Marshall at that time was 95, 96% black. We didn't have a lot of kids who prominently graduated in the top 10% of each of the graduating classes. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
For the ones who did, wasn't the 10%. It was either females or it was the minority, which was the whites or the Hispanics or the whites. It was
Right.
flipped, right? So we were the majority and they were
Yeah.
the minority, except the minority was getting the best grades and getting the top 10% of the classes. So it was weird because you see this all black school, but the ones who were in these little fancy robes that are the top 10% of the class, they look like you. So it's like, wait a minute, hold on. We're in the top 10% of the class. So what me and my comrades challenged each other, including Julius Jones, was, hey, we can do both. We can do top 10% of class and we could be supreme athletes. So it did. It worked out. I had a 3.9 GPA.
I mean, hold
Coming
on though. Not all young people think like that though. I mean,
out. you,
that
you
is
know,
amazing.
yeah, one thing about it, again, I always go back when I talk about the culture for Oklahoma City, I talk about the power of having two parents.
Mm,
Having two parents that are plugged in. I was blessed and fortunate to have a mom and dad who were both educated, but yet believed in the future vision, man, for their son.
mm.
Particularly my father. He was one of those, Brittany, he was one of those guys that I've rarely met in my lifetime. And I'm in my 40s now. So I met a lot of people in my lifetime, and I haven't seen too many people like my father who had that unique ability, to see something inside of you and then help you grow that to get to where you're supposed to go.
You
So
gave
that's what he did.
you gave me goosebumps. Those types of people, man, it's special. And
Hey, I'm talking about
your father
special.
no less, like that's really,
Let
really
me tell you a
special.
story. So I'm gonna get you where in my career. So after I became the first black manager, I had a vision about going back and taking it to the next level. So I'm sitting on the couch one day, real story. I'm talking to my dad, and he says, "Son, I'm not gonna call you son anymore. I'm gonna start calling you professor." I thought, professor? Yeah, whatever, man. So every time we talk for about a year, he would say, "Hey, professor, what's up, man? What do you think about this, professor? What do you think about this, professor? Hey, professor, talk to me." I'm like, "Why you keep calling me professor?" "Hey, man, I'm your son, man. Why you keep calling me professor?" And
Self-fulfilling prophecy. He's just planting those seeds. Planting those
he
seeds.
wouldn't say a whole lot about it. He would just giggle, laugh it off. We'll move on. So about a year later, Brittany, real story. A guy that was coaching my oldest daughter in soccer was a professor at University of Phoenix. At the time, UOP, as we call it, the demographics were more Caucasian than black students, which means the university was trying to find a way to bring in diversity from a faculty standpoint.
Okay. Yep.
And he knew this. So he was like, man, you got your master's degree? I was like, yeah. He was like, you got the great personality. He was like, man, you got to check it out. Come interview. If you don't like it, that's cool. But I want to open my door to the opportunity for you. So I was like, So I did. I get in. It was successful. They hired me. I called my dad. I never forget. I said, yo, Pops, you won't believe this, man. I said, I got me this little side gig. I said, guess where it is? He's like, Professor.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. What a story. I love
Right?
it.
I'm like, how do you know? How did you know? He's like, don't worry about it, son. I know. I know. He was that type of dude, man. And, I wouldn't be who I am, into my 40s as a man today without his direction and his input. Because here's the key, Brittany. It's fathers. I got a rule that I preach to the kids when I mentor, that mamas are always going to be mamas because you guys birthed the kids. You're going to be mamas. But fathers are the difference makers. Those fathers who are plugged in can make you either be ultimately successful or just be average. That's the way the formula works. Fathers have that innate ability. We were given that to be able to help navigate, if you will, our kids to where they need to go. My dad bought into that somehow. Wherever he learned that, I don't know, but he believed it, and man, he maximized. He maximized. So here's the story. So I get in with UOP. I'm young. It's just pretty cool for the kids. I'm 28 years old as a college professor.
I mean,
And I'm the only Black college professor at UOP at the time. I'm
what were you
Black.
thinking?
I'm teaching finance and accounting. And I'm teaching finance and accounting.
I mean,
people hate finance and accounting, right? So they looking like, boy, you teaching the one of the most rigorous subject matters, and you under 30, and you're a Black male, right? So my dad's like, here it is. What you gonna do? I was like, man, I'm gonna go ahead and kill it, right? So my challenge was to make it relatable, because I knew as a finance and accounting major when I was an undergrad, I had a tough time with my professors because they weren't relatable.
right.
Right? They were all older, whether they were male or female. It's just because of the age difference. I wasn't plugged in. I had to grind on my own to do my homework, but in the class, it was like, man, these dudes are killing me. I do the impossible, Brittany. First day I get in, I tell all the students, hey, we're not going to use our books for 2 weeks. They're like, what? We're not going to use our books. We don't need the books. I got it all here. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to play a game. We're going to build this story, right, about cash flow. We're going to build this story about budgeting. We're going to build this story about financial statements. We're going to build this story about how to manage your money. And now I got them, right? Because now they're looking at me and I'm animated and I'm using the board as illustration. So as we go along, they didn't know that we were working on problems and I'm building stories. Thankfully, I've got a lot of stories, so that worked for me. That's my style.
I love it.
Yeah, that's my style. But what I found out is that people were engaged. We had a student that hated finance and accounting before they came in. When they left, they were changing their majors. How cool is that? They were changing their majors to be finance. Right? I'm like,
can I get in Jimmy's class? I want to be in that class.
Right, I'm blown away. So Brittany, the first year, right, I did a whole calendar year of classes. And, I got blessed. I was voted Professor of the Year as a 29-year-old, right? How freaking cool is that, right? I'm standing there with my trophy with my dad taking the picture at the Cox Convention Center where the graduation was. And I'm like, wow, just a kid from Northside, Oklahoma City. Man, that's a college professor and won a Professor of the Year. Man, I'm dreaming, man. I'm dreaming.
You're a game changer. That's what I'm trying to say. You are switching things up, and I love that. But I want to highlight, like, how hard you've worked too. I mean, I think sometimes young people expect to graduate and then maybe even attend college and graduate, and then they're like, okay, world, like, here I am, like, I need $60,000, right? Like, I think a lot of us are like that. And don't realize that, oh no, like, this is like years in the making. This is years of personal development and growth and and furthering my education, it has to be a desire within me first and foremost, or I'm not going to be able to achieve it. And I think that, yes, you did have a great support system at home, and I wish I had had the opportunity to shake your dad's hand because he sounds like an absolute legend. But mostly, it has to come from within you too, and you're a
Absolutely.
stellar human being. So I
I
just love
appreciate it.
that.
And you brought up a good point because, we're seeing the fruits of the labor now, but nobody was seeing the 15, 16 years behind the scenes of putting
Yes,
that grind and putting that work in while everybody else is kicking it and partying. I'm doing analysis, I'm doing studying, I'm in the grind, I'm at the work. I got kids, hey man, I can't go today, man. I got to get this done. What, you teaching class? You a professor, bro? Yeah, man, I'm working on my craft. I got to get this
love that.
done. I'm grinding. Right. But now, 15, 16 years later, we see the fruits of the labor. So you're right. It's the grind. And I think because my dad instilled about how to work with basketball. So we were in the gym grinding. So he was building that work ethic that you're talking about
I see.
of, son, it doesn't come by magic. It comes by work. So he used basketball, right, to tell me the story of how to be successful. So when I got the scholarship, I was like, okay, all this time and work and effort we put in, it paid off. I got a free Division I basketball scholarship. So I thought like, if I could take that same concept of how to grind and work into my profession, let's see what happens. So you're
I
right.
love that
You
you
put that.
tied, yes, I love that you tied the two together because the reality is like not everybody's going to be a Division I athlete, and that's
No,
okay. But
it's okay.
But so that's what PAL does, right? Like we try to use sport as the vehicle for that. Get some team working, leadership skills, and just like you said, find a way to then apply that. Like if you play 5th and 6th grade sports, cool. You play 7th and 8th grade, even better. You want to go
Right.
D1? Hallelujah. If none of that works out though, right? Like retain all that knowledge, just like you said, and be able to apply it to your education or when you graduate to your job, whatever that next step is. Like there are foundational skills you'll use for life.
Always. I always went into Grambling with the notion of, if I get lucky, maybe I can get a pro contract. But at the end of the day, I've got to be able to get my education, my degree, so I can go make a living. That was my foundation. So I'm glad that I was blessed and fortunate enough to make it through with no injuries and then finish the mission, with the degrees. But what I found out, Brittany, as I got into the workforce, I started looking around about what Oklahoma City looked like, and this is my next transition.
Yeah.
This is my next key about how we plug into this system, because nobody told me when I got to my first company that the company and the people in the company didn't look like me. Nobody
Right.
told me, right?
Right.
So when I get in, it's 150, 160 people, and there are only 2 African Americans. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Right.
I start counting, and there's only 1 Asian. Then there's 2 Hispanics. So you got 5 total minorities compared to 150 whites.
Wow, man.
I didn't know what that meant because first of all, I never paid attention to it,
Mm,
and then now I am forced to compete and perform with other people that does not look like me.
mm.
So it provided a caveat of, ooh, so is my color of my skin going to play a role, or is it my ability to be smart going to be more pivotal, or is it a combination of both? How do I treat this? Are they looking at me strange? I'm uncomfortable.
I mean, these are real
So
things that you face, right? And probably a lot of our young people will face and maybe are facing now as well.
absolutely. So when I started, and we'll get there what that is, when I started my John Marshall Impact team, about maybe 25, 30 kids in the first session, I say, when you get out, here's how I'm going to start it. When you get out and you get your first job, 95% of the people is not going to look like you. They're like, so I never forget this. So I walk into this copy machine room. I never forget. I was 29. It was right before I won Professor of the Year UOP. There's 2 white guys sitting at this copy machine. I'm making copies. I'm suited and booted, got the tie, got the jacket. I'm looking sharp, right? And they turn to me and they say, "Excuse me, sir. this room is for faculty only.
Oh.
And I say, you're right, it is for faculty only. Hey, I'm Professor Lawson. What's your name, sir? And he looks at me, he says, I apologize. I apologize for that. And I said, it's okay, I'm transparent. I said, really what you were trying to tell me is that you never saw a black male professor before. And he says, you know what? I hate to admit it, sir. That's how he looks. I hate to admit it. But you're correct. He's an older guy. So in his generation,
Right.
he never saw integration from the faculty side. See, we're breaking all kind of barriers because
What I love, especially though, is that you use it as a teachable moment. It's not a moment to like get hostile or upset. You perfectly use it as a teachable moment to say, hey, yeah, I'm here. You're right. I'm here and I'm a professor. Nice to meet you. You know, like you said, you only know what you know. He didn't know, he's never experienced that. And there couldn't be a more better person than you to have that teachable moment with him.
so he became really good friends with me, and it gave him a chance to see my world, you know, as an African American male, and he learned a lot. I learned a lot from him. We're still good friends now, and we laugh about it. He laughs about it. I'm rolling with UOP, and then I switch companies. I go to another oil and gas company, and this was another thing special happened. So this particular oil and gas company was heavily Caucasian as well. There were no African Americans or Hispanics in management for this company. This particular company has been in business for 1969, and they never had any minority in higher level director positions. So God bless me, I got promoted to what we call director of credit. So they manage the credit side for the company, the treasury and the cash management side of the company, which is a big deal, which is a huge big deal for companies, right? So man, I climbed the ladder. I get the title of director of credit. I'm like, call my mom, like, Mama, I made it. Right? I got this huge salary. You know, it was a surreal moment for me, Brittany, making that kind of money in Oklahoma City as a young black dude. I think I was probably 30, 35, 36 at the time. And here we are. You got this plateau of like, wow, man, I'm just a kid from North Side Oklahoma City, man, that bought into this vision about how important education, you know, and plugging in and grind and work ethic, man. And now I'm the first ever African-American director level for this company.
So cool, man. I love that.
Start over. So I got these 5 keys, you know, that we talk about how to be successful and what it takes and what's my 5 most important pieces to the pie. I view life as like a pie. You got different slices in this pie. You know, here's number 1. You know, no matter what your social economic background is or wherever you come from, you know, everybody is given something special, right? So Brittany Ward has something that the 7.2 billion people in the world can't do, right? How special is that?
I totally co-sign that. Subscribe to that all day, every day. I agree. Yes.
Right? How special is it that your design is something that I can't do? Only Brittany Ward can do this, right? How special is that? So we tap in with the kids, and I say, hey, kids, each one of you all can do something that everybody else can't do. And they say, oh, you were born and designed to be specifically amazing and special to do this one thing. So our job is to help you tap into what that one thing is. Mm-hmm. That's my first key. Number 2 key is education. Mm-hmm. We talked about it. The power for you to maximize who you are is your ability to learn and your ability to acquire education. Because one thing about education, it is colorblind. There is no color to a degree. A degree is a degree. It ain't white, black, orange, pink, or purple, right? It's your ability to hold that paper up because you know, Brittany, when you hold that paper up, you earned it. You know, they didn't give it to you. You grinded, you cried over it, you earned it.
True. You stayed up late at night writing those papers because you procrastinated, you know.
Yeah. I was like, I did it. Yep. Oh my God. Key number 3 is so important. We'll talk about something that affected this phenomenon. Key number 3 is the people who you associate yourself with, who you surround yourself with. this can make or break, you and your career or your life. It is so important to surround people that's going where you're going. There was a cutoff probably between 28, 29 for me personally that I had to make a decision about some of these friends that I had that wasn't going the same direction with me as far as my career goes or my personal goals. So I cut them. I cut them off. I stopped kicking it with them, stopped hanging with them because they're not going. They're not going where I'm going. Right. And you know what? To be honest, that's the difference. That's the difference between the Barack Obamas and the Michelle Obamas and the Kamala Harrises and some of the minorities who have risen up to the top is if you look at their life and you look at their schedule over the past 20 years, you saw that they surrounded themselves with people that were going where they were going.
That's right.
And here's my number 4. And people don't talk about this, but for me personally, it's so important. And it's the mechanism of honoring your parents, honoring your mother and father. I truly believe, because I'm a faith-based person, that God shows favor to those who treat their parents in the right way. No matter if you disagree or agree with your parents are teaching you or doing, when you honor your mother and father, I can't tell you how this worked, Brittany, but it has worked for me. And it has given me supernatural favor. And you ask me, man, how have you been able to knock all these walls down and do all these amazing things? I don't know. The only thing I do know is that I took this verse that my dad gave me when I was young, and he says, if you want to live long, and if you want to have favor, son, here we go again, man. This dude was crazy, right? He says, honor your mother and father, and God will give you supernatural favor. And Brittany, I'm standing here today as a living testament and living testimony that has worked for me. Concept, that's my number 4.
That could be for our young people too, though. That could be maybe like your grandma or whoever your guardian is.
Or your uncle, your auntie, grandma.
Right. Auntie, yeah. Yes.
Whoever's your guardian.
Yeah,
because you know what? It's reciprocal. You give respect, respect is given unto you.
Yes.
Right. And I see that because people respect me, but I don't think it's because of me. I think it's because I respected my forefathers and my parents. And it's just being reciprocated back to me. And then and number 5 is when you have it, give it back. When you have it, give it back, whether it's monetary, whether it's knowledge, whether it's wisdom, whether it's truth, whatever it is for you, give it back. So God challenged me as I got a little bit more successful. He said, what good is it to you have this skill set if you're not going to give it back and pull that next generation up, Jimmy? You got to go get them because they starving. Right? That's the word he gave me. They starving. They fiending. They starving. I was like, wow. So I was like, I need to figure out an impact team. So number 5 was go get somebody and bring them along. Go give back. So that's what inspired me, Brittany, to start the John Marshall Impact Team. And I tell you right off the bat, I didn't know what I was doing, how to do it, what should I talk about, what's my first major points, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Just get in the building and go. So when I get in the building and we go, I was amazed about what was just happening, which was the kids were fiending, hungry for instruction, success, somebody that looks like them, yes, from the same neighborhood, from the same side of the city, yes, right, through the same program, and voila.
If you look up relatable in the dictionary, it's Jimmy Lawson. Like, right? Like, that's you.
Yes, you're too kind. You're too kind, Brittany. And man, I was just honored that they allowed me to come in. I had this aha idea with the principal and the superintendent. Man, we could save a whole school and we could save a whole generation.
Oh, I know.
Right? And I'm pumped, man. And they like, okay, well, yeah, okay, well, we'll give you a chance to come in. So, but when we came in, Brittany, you saw where we started and when we paid out that money to the kids. You remember that? when I paid
Yeah.
up to $50 to each student that got 4 A's. Come on, man. Was nobody ever thinking about paying kids for performance, right?
Mhm.
But I knew as a kid, if my mom and dad was like, yo, I give you 40, $50 if you give me a couple of A's, I'm going to get on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get on it. So I took that same concept, Brittany, and not only are we going to pump up the kids about how to be successful, we're going to reward them when they are successful. So that's what made me come up with the idea of the pay for play program. And let me tell you how cool it was. When I implemented it the first semester, we probably had 18, 19 students that was kind of buying into it. And then second semester, right before the pandemic happened, when we paid out 62 kids.
Wow. Yes. And so are they all boys, or are they boys and girls, or what's
No,
the
they're boys and girls. And
Yeah.
and what was cool is the demographics is pretty diverse at John Marshall Middle School. So you got white, blacks, Hispanics, Indians, Asians. So you got this group of people,
That
if
is
you
so
will,
cool.
right, that bought into the idea that education is important for them because Mr. Lawson says education is the key.
That's cool. I love that.
So those are my five top keys, man. That's worked for me and what I promote to the next generation. And I believe in my heart that this whole state of Oklahoma, could benefit from people like you that are tapping into this next generation to have positive role models. More times than not, outside of your household, are you very rarely fortunate enough to bump into some people who are able to, climb that ladder of success that may look like you, whatever your nationality is, doesn't matter. But it always is pivotal when you are able to bump into somebody that looks like you.
I mean, representation is huge. You don't think you can do it. Like, it's not even a part of your realm of possibilities, right? Like, you don't even, I just know, like, as a girl even, right? So I know it's not the same, but a little bit, similar that, females struggle sometimes in male dominated roles. And so it can be challenging. When I first started seeing like Becky Hammond coaching for the Spurs, and
Yeah.
you start seeing all these females breaking through that ceiling, and I'm like, man, that's powerful. That is amazing. And then you have high profile athletes that are saying, if you know the game, you know the game, right? So it goes perfectly back to what you said. Education doesn't know race, gender. It doesn't know those things. If you have a thirst for knowledge, it will be there.
You brought up a good point because I have all daughters, so I've got 3 daughters. My oldest is 20. So she's in college, of course, doing her thing. But you hit a great point about how it affects the female, because females are different. And when you don't have a lot of representation that are females, it does make a difference, right? Because you'll hear the questions of, hey, Dad, I don't see a lot of females, or I don't see a lot of female managers. I don't see a lot of female leaders. And she's right. I mean, you don't. And here we go again. It's about putting people like you that's climbing the ladder that looks like them to help inspire and say, hey, if Brittany Ward can do it,
If I can do it, look, if I can do it, you can do it. Like, anyone can do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today, Jimmy. It's been a blessing to be able to speak to you and hear about the incredible things you've been able to achieve in your short years of life. And I know our young people will greatly benefit from watching this, so thank you.
Thank you, Brittany Ward, for having me, man. It's a privilege and an honor that you took your time out of your busy day to dive a little bit into my life.